Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your girl Mitzi, and this is Mitzi. Let's think about it. Today, we are thinking about an unconventional story. Unconventional journey. Yes, that's what it is. Journey, not story. Anyways, thank you so much, Anne, for coming on my show and helping us think about this in a whole new way. And let's just dive right in. When you think about an unconventional journey, what does that make you think about?
Well, mine was unconventional simply because back in the 1970s, which tells you how old I am, I just turned 70. I wanted to be a sportscaster, and women didn't do that kind of thing back then. It was ridiculous. So, I kept telling people I wanted to do this. My mother came up to me at 17 and said, "So, what do you want to be? We got to pick a college." And I went, "A sportscaster." And she said, "Don't be ridiculous. I'm trying to have a serious conversation with you." And that's pretty much how it went for years. I didn't get my first job as a sportscaster until I was 28 years old. I got told no over and over again. Now, today, people find that astonishing because we see women sportscasters. But
Yeah.
back then, there simply weren't any.
Yeah, absolutely. Back then you really had to have that passion and have that resilient spirit to say, no, that no is a no, but no, I'm not going to take that no as my final answer. I'm going to keep going because there's billions of people on this earth and you're going to tell me I'm going to stop my dreams by just one person out of the billions? No, I'm going to keep going. And that's what I love about your journey because you truly show that resilient spirit. And I think a lot of people can take that into consideration, man or female, anyone that has a dream and feels like it's far fetched. This is what we need to hear, people's stories like yourself. And I guess what really made you not take a no for an answer where you were like, no, I'm going to keep going?
I'm very stubborn, is basically the answer to that. Also, I found out much later in life that I'm dyslexic, right? And so I was
Mm.
not a good student. And I remember when I got accepted to college and I was packing to go to my freshman year in college. And my brother leaned in the doorway. He goes, "I bet you $20 you'll flunk out by Christmas. You're too stupid to be in college." And I thought, I'd rather be hit by a truck than lose that bet. So when I went to college, I said, I'm going to study every day. If I have a test on a Friday, I'm going to start studying on Sunday night. I'm never going to cut class. I'm going to do all my homework. And I did because I couldn't let him win that bet. But I was not very smart. I had to learn how to study. I had to learn how to pace myself. Couldn't cut school or anything like that. So the bottom line is when you tell me no, I felt the urge, and I still do, I guess, to prove to you that yes, I can. And I don't know if there was logic in there anywhere. It was being stubborn and refusing to fail. I refuse. Now, I did fail a lot, don't get me wrong, but yeah, I got back up and tried again. So
Yeah.
I think that's part of it. I'm just a stubborn person.
So, what do you do when you feel those moments of doubt, or have you ever felt those moments of doubt?
Oh gosh, yes. Yeah, I became a sportscaster, sort of, in life, funny little things happen that point you in a different direction. And I had tried for years to be a sportscaster. I tried to apply to places, but I ended up working at a bar in Georgetown in Washington, D.C. in the late 70s, early 80s, which was great fun, I must say. And in fact, my parents had an intervention. They came down and they said, "We put you through college so you could be a waitress." I'm like, "No, Mom, I'm going to be a sportscaster." And here's how that happened. I grew up as an ice skater. I was an ice dancer, no talent. Today I'd play hockey. I grew up before Title IX, so girls didn't play hockey. But
Mm.
I went to a hockey game, a Washington Capitals game one night, and one of the gentlemen with our group was an amateur ice hockey official. And he was saying, "Oh, we don't have enough ice hockey officials. We don't have enough to do the kids' games." And my aunt, who was there with me, said, "Oh, Annie skates. You go be a referee." And that's what I did. I went and I took the test. And one morning I found myself officiating 6-year-old hockey players. They're so cute. Their little helmets are crooked and they've got tiny little sticks and jerseys to their ankles. And I don't remember much about the game, but on the way home, I went, wow, this is what I need. I don't know enough about sports to be a competent sportscaster. I need to become an official in the five main team spectator sports: football, baseball, ice hockey, soccer, and basketball. And I'm going to do 5 years of that, and I'm going to know sports. And some forward thinking news director will go, wow, she knows what she's talking about. And they'd hire me. And that's what happened.
Look at that. Look at that. That's amazing because it just shows that, okay, you had a dream, you know you had to do that, you wanted to do this, but in reality, you didn't know much about all of the sports.
I did.
But then you were like, you know what? If I don't know it, what can I do about it? Figure it out, learn it. You know what I mean? You are one of
And
those people that have that problem-solving spirit that's like, you know what? I see a problem. It's not a problem because I'm gonna solve it and I'm gonna go for it and we're gonna get it done.
I know, I realize now I didn't answer your question about how it was difficult. I mean, it was very difficult when I became a sports reporter because I was the only woman ever, but I was also the only woman umpire on the field wherever I was. I was the only woman's football official. And so those things were difficult. The men said, "You don't belong. What are you doing out here?" People didn't accept me. And I will say this, I remained a sports official for 40 years. I officiated baseball for 25 and football, high school football, men's leagues, that kind of thing, for 40 years. And even after 40 years, I walk out in the field and go, "What's she doing here? Why didn't they send a real referee?" You know. But the bottom line, yeah, I loved it. I loved being an official.
I can imagine.
I don't miss much of the th many of the things I'm retired from, but I miss Friday night football. But I didn't belong there. And that got me ready
Mm.
for when I got my job in TV. And some men were lovely and very helpful, and some men were jerks, um, acted like I didn't know what I was talking about and sabotaged me on occasion because I didn't fit in with the boys. And today, people think that's shocking because you see women all over. Have women advanced in the sports world? No, they're doing useless jobs. I don't know if you're a football fan, but where are the women on the sidelines? You might as
Mm.
well have nurses there because all they ever do is say, "Hey, Bob, he tore his ACL." You know, they don't talk about football. So I don't think
Mhm.
women have advanced much. But I know when I was there weren't even women photographers or producers. I was always the only one in the locker room, and so it was always a struggle. Every day was a struggle. The good news is some men were charming, but there were also always some jerks around.
Oh, absolutely. At least you can see that it's not just a specific person. I mean, like it's not a specific genre or anything like that. It's not like a group. It's just those one bad apples that in no matter where you go, that you always find them. They always have this complex within where they feel like they have to take it out on you. And I think it's sad, but it's the truth, you know what I mean? It's the truth that no matter where you go, if you are striving to be the first in an industry, or if you're striving to be the oddball in an industry, then you have to know that there are going to be people against you, and then people are going to try to prove that you are not worth what you know that your worth is. That's what I think is a great value that people can take out of this story as well. You know what I mean? Like you had dyslexia. You know, a lot of people now are finding out that they have dyslexia and
Yes.
finding out now that, you know what I mean, they've had all these issues with schools and now schools are trying to change and fix and adjust their curriculum so it's not so rigid like it was in the past because I had the same issue as you. I I have dyslexia too, and sometimes it's like, "Oh my goodness, I can't do this." You know what I mean? So then when it was
Yep.
my time to go back to college and I was just like, "Okay, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do this right because I need to prove to myself that I'm no dummy. I'm not dumb. I'm smart just like any other person." I made 4.0. I was on the honor roll. You know what I mean? Like
I
I
was
was
too.
you know what I mean? Like, but I had to learn like you. I had to pace myself. I had to learn how to time manage. I had to learn how to adjust. I had to learn how to sacrifice certain
Mhm.
things because I knew that I had to move differently accordingly to the world. And but you still didn't allow that to stop you, you know, and that's why I feel like we can kind of relate on that because and so many others who are listening because we are facing so many obstacles, you know what I mean, in our lives constantly. And then my question is, do you think self-sabotage is a thing that's also hurting people along the way? And if so,
Um,
do you think that you've ever faced that?
I don't think I have. I've had some self-doubt, like, "Oh my God, how am I going to get through this?"
Yeah.
Um, I don't know how to do this because, after all those years of officiating, when I got my first job, I had no idea how to do live news. I'd never been on live news before. I was a
Yeah.
waitress and an umpire and a referee. Okay, so I didn't know anything about it. I was awful when I started. And so, yes, I had self-doubt, but I don't think I sabotaged myself. I just worked harder. I
Wow.
just figured I went in early. I learned, my first two TV stations, I worked for five TV stations. The first two, I had lovely partners who should have been the sports director. They should have been hired. They should have been my boss, but I was hired and became their bosses, and I had no experience for the
Oh,
first one.
wow.
And that guy could have been such a jerk to me. Instead, he was charming and helped me. So I will be forever grateful to my first two sports partners because they didn't seem, if they saw me if they were jealous or they felt upset that I usurped them a little bit, they never showed it. They helped me. And then, later on, some guys didn't, but that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. I don't think I self-sabotage. I was sabotaged by people.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I was on a radio show a couple years ago, and there was a
Yeah.
gentleman who was also a sportscaster in town. He actually replaced me at a station in Phoenix when I left here, and when I left Phoenix. And he said, live on the air, he goes, Annie, I just want to tell you that I'm sorry. I'm like, for what? He said, we were terrible to you. I said, Kevin, you never said anything bad about me. He said, I only did it behind your back. So, you know, and I said, that's all right. What changed? This is what has changed. He grew up, he got married, and he had three daughters. I think he has three. So
Mm.
suddenly they see women advancing in a whole different way. Suddenly they go, well, why shouldn't my daughter do what she wants? So some of the men who maybe have said things about me in the past now are dads and go, oh, okay, maybe we should let women step up because now I have daughters. So I think that
Yes.
changed some.
Oh, I love that story. I love that story because I think that's very ironic because one thing I realize is that some the men who don't have a lot of respect for women, they end up having daughters so that they learn how to respect women. And then the women who don't
Mm-hmm.
know how to respect men, they usually end up having sons so that they learn how to respect men. So it's like a life lesson, like, boom, learn it because you did wrong and judged people. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You
but
judged the wrong
then
one.
he apologized. I was like, wow, I never even knew. I always thought, he was nice to me. But, maybe they weren't all the time. They weren't. And that's okay.
Hey, that's the reality though. Is It just shows that, a lot of people may talk behind your back, but if you have such a good perspective of yourself and of your journey and of your goal, it's irrelevant. You know what I mean? Because you're there for the experience, you're there for the moment. So then everything else is like, okay, it is what it is at this point. You know what I mean? Because you're gone and you moved on and you're moving forward. So it's like, okay, you may have talked bad behind my back before, but now it's just like, what is it to me
Yeah,
now,
I
right?
will. I will say, I'm not going to say my feelings weren't hurt a whole bunch of times, but I
Yeah.
never let them see me cry. I went home and cried.
Mm. Right, exactly.
I
I'll
went
wait till
home
I
and
get in
did.
the car and cry.
Yeah, I got home and took out a glass of wine and cried
That's hilarious. Okay, great. So
out.
my question to you is how do you recenter yourself?
Explain.
Or like how do you recenter yourself? Like how do you feel zen? How do you get yourself back to
Oh, calm down.
yeah.
Um, I'm not in TV anymore. No one's calm in TV. They're all nuts all the time because it's a constant battle. The show's on in 2 hours. You got to build everybody's crazy. You do the show, everything's nuts, and you drop down. Then do another one. Like if you're doing local news, we would do two shows a night, and you're nuts when it's over because it's constant stress. When I die, I'm going to die a little earlier than I should have from the stress from television. Hence the reason I do not miss TV.
Oh
Um,
my goodness.
but calm to be calm for me, it's being in wilderness. I'm a rock collector. I have a bunch right behind me.
Oh,
I don't know if you can see
oh
them.
nice. Yes.
And so I go out. I live in Arizona part of the time, and I go out in the desert, and it's magnificently beautiful and peaceful, and nature makes me happy. I'm also a scuba diver,
Oh,
so scuba is like being on another beautiful planet, and it's
oh, it
quiet,
is.
and you hear bubbles, and there's no phones, there's no anger, there's just beautiful creatures that you meet. And that's how I chill,
Oh,
basically.
wow.
So me to and I have a hard time calming down. My partner Ryan will tell you, I mean, I've been retired from everything. I'm an author, I write books, but that's on mostly on my schedule. I don't have hard deadlines a lot. And so for me to, he says, you can never relax. Finally, after 5 years of retirement from teaching, I'm starting to relax. It's taken that long.
Wow, but at least you're finally doing it and you can say that that's what gives you peace and that's what finds you gets you that calm moment. And I ain't mad. My little cousin, she loves to collect rocks. Like she gets so excited when she collects finds new rocks in her collection. She's like, "Oh my God, Mitzi, look what I found. Look at this one and this one and this one." She even got one of those rock cleaners to shine them up, those
A
automatic
tumbler.
ones. Yeah, one of those tumblers. Yeah, she's
Take her to
completely.
museums. Encourage this. We don't have enough young people involved. I have 400 specimens just in my living room at home,
Oh
and only
my
one of
goodness.
my four kids is into rocks. So, but he
Oh.
goes, and my other son brings my grandson. So it's kind of fun. But I love it. It's one of my favorite things because it's peaceful and quiet, and often quiet, and you're looking for treasure. You know,
Yeah,
nature's
and it
treasure.
gets you off of your mind. It gets you off of
Yes.
whatever that may be going on in your world, and all that you're doing is concentrating on the now and what's in front of you. And I wish more people can do that. Like just refocus, turn everything off, and just focus on what's in front of you. You know what I mean? So yes, I'm totally for it.
Honestly, when I was an official, when I was doing football and baseball, the rest of the world disappeared. I mean, it was
Mhm.
only between the lines. And I had a partner, a baseball partner for years, who was a Vietnam veteran who had post-traumatic stress. But when he got in between the lines of the baseball field, all that went away. And so, because you're right, you're focusing on the game, you're focusing on your job in the game. So, strangely, going out in the desert and being peaceful, working a ball game did the same thing. All my job, one of my other jobs went away, and maybe I had a fight with my partner or whatever. And then now I just have to concentrate on the game. So
Yeah.
that brought a certain kind of peace too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I remember doing certain types of work and just being at work and just focusing at work at the moment
Mhm.
brought me peace and I had chaos at home, but it didn't matter because I was supposed to just focus right there in the moment. And that's why I just
Yeah.
wish people would like realize like when you're working, doing whatever that you're doing, do it with pride, do it with everything
Thank
that you
you.
got and just
Exactly.
focus. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter if you're a waitress, it doesn't matter if you're a garbage picker, it doesn't matter if you are a contractor and doing painting walls. It doesn't matter if you're a toll person. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what
Yeah.
you do. Just do it with all your heart. Do it right. You know what I mean? That's a whole different avenue that we could dive
Yeah.
into with that. Let's be honest. So, I guess what are three things that you're grateful for?
Oh my goodness. I am strangely this. I'll try to make this a shorter story than it really is. I couldn't have any children of my own, and
Oh.
that bothered me for a decade or so. And I became a teacher after I was done with TV. When I turned 40, I was no longer pretty enough to be in front of a camera, so no stations would hire me anymore. I felt sorry for me for a long time, right? Then
Okay.
I became a teacher in a Title I school where
Oh.
most of the students lived in poverty. And I wasn't raised in poverty. Both my parents went to college. I had never seen poverty. And then suddenly I'm in a school where there are gangs and drugs and 400 kids in foster care and neglect and abuse and constant insanity. And every year at the end of the school year, I would put my phone number on the board. They told you never do this, but I didn't. I said to the kids, if you get in trouble and don't have anybody to call me. I'll help you if I can. And one summer, a young man called me. He was 14 and he had ended up in foster care. And he called me and he said, Miss Montgomery, I'm hungry. I said, what do you mean you're hungry? He said, well, they lock up the food at the group home and they didn't send the paperwork to my new school. So I'm hungry and I'm pissed. I'm lucky there were no students in my classroom. I'm swearing up a storm. And this other teacher walks in and goes, what is the matter? And I
Yeah.
said, well, I told her the story and she said, well, if it bothers you so much, why don't you call foster care and tell them he can come and live with you? And I said, don't be ridiculous. I'm 55. I've never had any children. She said, then stop complaining. Well, today I have four children and a grandchild. They were all former students. And some ended up in foster care. Some are my legal foster kids. Some just call me mom. And I never would have been a mother if my life hadn't taken all these strange turns. So I'm very grateful for that. Every time they call me mom, I'm like, I'm a mom. I'm not sure how that happened. So, 15 years later, I have four kids and a grandson. So I'm
Oh,
grateful for that. I'm grateful for, like, if I died tomorrow, I've had a great life.
yeah. That
I've
peace.
traveled the world. I've done most everything I set out to do. And I accidentally became an author. And as a person. I write books. I have 6 traditionally published novels that aren't about sports at all, which is ironic. So I'm very grateful for that. And I'm grateful that I'm sitting here 20 feet from the Caribbean. I have a
Yeah.
home that overlooks the Caribbean, and I have to admit there's something about being able to stare at the ocean every day. It's moving, living art,
Oh
and
my
yeah,
goodness.
very peaceful. This is where I'm zen
Oh,
while I
I
sit and
don't,
look at.
yeah, I don't blame you. I think water is the thing that just connects me and
It's
rejuvenates me.
yes.
Because when I used to live in Florida, I lived in Orlando and I was like
Oh, you
having
understand?
a, yeah, I absolutely understand because I would have like panic attacks because there'd be no body of waters in Orlando because it's all amusement parks and all like pools. And I was just like, I can't look at a pool because it's
Oh, it's
not
like
very
Arizona
attractive.
where I also live. It's like
You know
there's
what I
no
mean?
ocean,
Yeah, there's no
beautiful
ocean. So
desert, but no ocean.
I would have to drive to one of the coasts to just see the ocean and I would sometimes just wake up before even the sun would rise just to make it to the coast just so that I can see it rise. You know what I mean? And just experience the beauty of water and sunlight and clouds and everything. Oh my goodness.
I
Nobody
think
can
that's
take
genetic.
that away from me.
I think all humans are like that. I think it's genetic because, hundreds of thousands of years ago, humans were drawn to water for food and for water too. So the bottom line is, I think we're probably genetically predisposed to go, I want to be next to that.
Yeah, it
Right.
really
So
does.
yeah, I tell my kids, I've had a great life. Please, if I get hit by a meteor, a giant rock from space is my choice of death. Instant vaporization, be great headlines, And I said, just, I've had a fabulous life, no matter what happens after this. It hasn't been perfect. There's been a lot of zigs and zags, and all I can tell people is just go with it. Go with the
Yeah,
zigs and zags,
embrace
because
it.
something strange, and magical might happen at the end of that. Like I became a mom.
Exactly. I love that story of how you became that's an unconventional journey already in itself. I mean,
Yep.
you seen another problem and your other teacher was just like, "Okay, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to do something
Right.
about it
I
or
was like,
not?"
what? But then
Exactly.
later, a 14-year-old boy was dropped on my doorstep, or 15. I guess he just turned 15. Now he's 30 and a dad. So
Oh, that's a beautiful story. You saved those lives. You know what I mean? You brought them something that they never experienced before. I mean, that in itself is such a selfless act. I mean, you should just feel proud of that. I mean, I could understand why you say that I could die tomorrow and be happy with with how I lived my life because you can truly say that you've done it all in one way or another. You've done it all. That's a blessed life. I can honestly say that's
it
a
is.
blessed
It
life.
is. And again, I'm not going to tell you everything's been perfect because, when I lost my job in TV, I was horrified. Didn't want to see anyone I knew. I hid from people. I went from anchoring Sports Center at ESPN to calling Pop Warner football. I didn't want
Wow.
anybody I knew to say, "Oh, so what are you doing now?" I
Yeah.
didn't I didn't want to know. It took me about 4 years or so to go back to college to be a teacher. So I did a lot
Mm,
of feeling sorry for me. And I wasted time. I should
yeah.
have, I should have given myself 6 months and said, okay, snap out of it, move on. But I didn't. So people should take time to grieve the loss of a job. It is a grieving process,
Yes.
but then find something else. I've been very lucky that I'm curious about lots of things. I was a reporter. I ask questions. I'm curious about lots of things. I'm interested in lots of things. And I know at the age of 70 that I've had to give up things over the course of my life because I can't physically do some of them anymore. You have to have more things you can do. Okay. So that
Yeah.
life continues to be interesting. So if you
Exactly.
just tie yourself up into one thing, someday that's going to be gone. And then what do you do? So I think I'm
Exactly.
grateful that I have insatiable curiosity to do things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because one thing that I'm learning now, it's better to be a well-rounded individual than it is to be a one-track mind individual.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
I think everybody should have a well-minded experience in life. All need to learn how to clean, cook, like, you know what I mean? The basics, and then also be able to experience life in such a way that you are truly well-rounded because when you are one-track minded and you don't have a lot of experience in life, not only do you limit yourself, but a lot of your experiences is very subjective and very small. And it's like those people who don't expand out into the world and experience the world for what it is, they're like little hermit crabs in their own little world, and they're not even experiencing life. You know what I mean? And I feel like those are
Right.
like the trolls on the internet. Those are the trolls, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Throughout worlds that all they do is just bash people. But at the end of the day, it comes down to like, what are we doing for ourselves? You know what I mean? Well, how can you truly bring value to yourself? And I think that's the best way somebody can bring value to yourself, is knowing that you can keep learning. It doesn't stop.
that's correct. That's correct. And just because that one thing that you thought was going to be your future, life never goes the way you plan. It really doesn't. But it may give you something better, or it may give you a new task to get somewhere else. And hold on to that and don't be afraid of it. Okay. Looking
Absolutely.
back, sometimes I was like, oh gosh, what am I going to do now? But look, it just keep going. I think the adage, put one foot in front of the other and just keep moving forward, and things will
Absolutely.
work,
I
you know.
love that. I love that. I know time is catching up to us, and I know you already been giving us some bombshells of great information for us to keep going. But what can be some lasting words of wisdom to keep us all thinking?
Well, like we started, take no as a gift. If
Mm.
someone says, no, you can't do that thing. Now, there's some things we can't do. When teachers say, you can be anything, honey, that's not true. Shaquille O'Neal will never be a thoroughbred racehorse jockey. He'd kill the horse, right? And someone blind can't probably fly a fighter jet yet. So we can't do everything, but we can do lots of things. So when someone says no, if that means a lot to you to do that thing, go, great, you just gave me momentum. You made me go, okay, I'm going to prove to you that I can. And I look back on all the no's and go, thank you to those people who said that to me. So I think
Mhm.
that's good. Also, um, try not to wrap, and I said this also, try not to wrap your whole world into one thing.
Yeah.
Branch out, like we said.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. Try to look for, I know this is cliched, but even when bad things happen to me, I go, well, at least this didn't happen. Look at the
Yes.
positive part of it. There's got to be a positive part of
Yes.
everything. You
Thank
know,
you. Thank you, Anne. That
I
is
fell and broke my
exactly
arm
it.
about 9 months ago, and I'm like, well, at least I didn't break my other arm, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly. At least my legs aren't broken, or at least I can
right,
still move. You know what I mean? Yeah,
right,
exactly. Like there's always a silver lining. And if we just allow our minds to constantly readjust and constantly fix, like we basically have to keep moving. It's not like, okay, blinders on and just wonder.
right.
No, no, no. It's like moving and moving and moving every time. We need to allow ourselves to fluctuate and not get stuck and not attach ourselves to things and not be so rigid. Oh my goodness. We can keep talking about this for hours on end, but time is truly catching up to us. So, ladies and gentlemen, please check her out. If you're listening on audio, if you're on YouTube watching the video, just go under the description. I have a link to her website so that you can check out all the great stuff that she has to offer the world, because she has some great content so that you can continue on thinking. Because isn't that the point? Yes, it is. It is for us to continue on thinking. So, with that being said, bye.